Have you ever seen an idea, maybe a story or just some piece of news, and it just spreads? I mean, with this incredible speed that feels, well, it feels totally on its own.
Yeah.
No marketing budget, no ad campaign. It just moves because people feel like they have to share it.
It's the ultimate paradox in communication, isn't it? We
Yeah.
spend, billions trying to engineer virality,
Right.
but that true organic spread, it seems to happen almost by accident,
Yeah.
triggered by just one single catalytic event. And that's what we're doing today, a deep dive into exactly that.
We're looking at a historical case study that gives us, I think, some pretty profound insight into how influence works.
Yep.
Our source material is really focused on one specific line, an observation that the news of this traveled fast and was soon all over Galilee.
And that single line, it gives us a perfect map.
It does. It lets us analyze how influence can just scale instantly.
So that's our mission today. We're going to unpack the mechanism behind that. What was the catalyst that just ignited this thing?
And why did it spread so organically without any strategy?
Exactly. And I think this is critical. What is the real difference between speaking with inherent authority versus just repeating a tradition? Because that contrast, that's the key to the whole thing.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Because this explosion of news, it started in the most ordinary place you can imagine.
Right.
The source tells us Jesus began his ministry by just walking into a local synagogue on the Sabbath.
And you have to understand the routine to really feel the disruption. For the Jewish people back then, the synagogue on the Sabbath was, well, it was routine. A very formal, structured thing.
A tradition.
A tradition, absolutely. It's the weekly gathering. You hear the scriptures read, you hear them explained. It's predictable.
So a rabbi teaching, he wouldn't typically be expected to deliver some groundbreaking personal revelation, would he?
Precisely. A rabbi's authority was all about precedent. Teaching was an act of scholarly repetition. You quote other respected rabbis, older rabbis. You're basically a curator of tradition. Think of it like a corporate memo that has to cite all the previous policies.
It's safe. It's reliable.
But it rarely shocks you. It rarely transforms you.
Okay, got it. So into this very traditional, very predictable environment, two extraordinary things happen. And they just shatter that routine and become the catalyst for this instant virality.
The first thing, and you could argue it's the most crucial for the long-term impact, was the way he taught.
The manner of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jesus taught the word of God. And the source says, not as one repeating tradition, but as one who possessed authority. This wasn't just a different style. This was a completely unprecedented claim.
And that's the distinction we have to underline. If a normal rabbi is a secondary source, citing others,
Then Jesus was claiming to be the primary source, the origin.
wow,
That completely shifts the dynamic from, say, education to revelation.
it does. When you teach by tradition, you're asking people to respect the wisdom of the past. But when you speak with authority, you're saying the precedent is standing right in front of them. The people in that room were hearing something that just bypassed all their systems and hit them with the force of genuine firsthand truth.
That claim itself is what made the message newsworthy. Not even what he was saying, but the authority with which he said it.
And then, as if that weren't enough, that verbal authority gets backed up instantly by this undeniable demonstration of power.
Right. Before everyone leaves, he commands an unclean spirit to leave a man, and it obeys immediately.
So this wasn't just a miracle. It was a public, measurable consequence of the authority they had just heard.
The intellectual shock of the teaching paired with the visceral shock of the power. You couldn't just rationalize it away as good public speaking.
And the result was, as the source calls it, inevitable. The news spread not merely within that town, but throughout the entire region of Galilee.
This isn't a slow build. This is immediate regional scale.
Which brings us to a really fascinating point about influence. Because today, we'd assume there must have been an instruction, right? A call to action. Go tell everyone, share this.
But the source material is clear. The word traveled so fast because people had encountered something they literally could not keep to themselves.
It's the difference between an external push and a powerful internal pull. But let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Couldn't the fact that Jesus often told people he healed to remain silent, couldn't that be seen as a strategy itself? Create a little mystery, some scarcity? That's a brilliant marketing tactic.
It's a great observation, and a modern strategist would 100% frame it that way. But the source material, it really focuses on purpose, not tactics.
Okay.
So he was often telling people to quietly comply with the law or with customs. It demonstrates that his mission wasn't about building a crowd or becoming a celebrity. It was about specific, often quiet intentions.
So the anti-PR move wasn't a strategy, it was just integrity.
Yeah.
And the people who had the encounter, they became the network anyway.
Exactly. The sources say they were moved by three specific things. First, teaching with an authority they'd never seen.
Okay.
Second, a visible power that defied any human explanation. And third, they saw darkness driven out by a single word. Those three things created this state of astonishment, a transformation so profound that you just became compelled to share it.
When the experience does all the heavy lifting, the communicator's job changes completely.
His authority needed no amplification. His power needed no explanation. You don't have to craft the perfect slogan when the event itself is undeniably transformative.
That feels like the key takeaway for you, the listener. Maybe start trying to optimize the funnel and start prioritizing the catalytic event.
The focus isn't on better delivery, it's on deeper impact.
Okay, so let's dive into that mechanism. How does a profound personal encounter translate into rapid, organic, regional spread? What are the physics of this?
The source explains that the speed and the reach came from an internal change, a change that immediately fueled external communication. The spread was organic because, and this is a quote, lives were touched, consciences were awakened, and hearts were shaken.
So it's not just reporting trivia like, hey, I saw a thing. It's sharing a personal paradigm shift. It's my entire worldview was just undone by what I saw.
Precisely. If you just inform someone, they file that data point away and they move on.
Mm-hmm.
If you transform them, that transformation changes their behavior, their priorities, and crucially, their ability to stay silent. When people are genuinely moved, they speak. They speak because holding it in becomes impossible. The testimony of that transformation is the transmission medium.
That's a lesson that you can apply directly to, say, organizational change, right? If a new business vision relies only on strategies and slogans,
It dulls.
it stalls.
Right.
But if the team is genuinely astonished by the mission, they become its evangelists.
The sources basically conclude that the testimony of transformed lives is what carried his fame. The news spread because the word had intrinsic authority, and the power behind it was just undeniable. That's the ultimate test of a message's power. It's way beyond clicks or impressions.
Which naturally pivots us to the source's really profound modern-day observation. If that mechanism was so powerful then, why does the news stall today? Why do great ideas, profound truths, struggle to move beyond the first room they're spoken in?
And this is where we shift from, historical analysis to a more critical self-reflection. The source pinpoints the difference as being genuinely encountered by Christ, not merely informed about him.
The danger of intellectualizing a transformative idea.
Exactly. It's the risk of extreme familiarity, isn't it?
Right.
We take something that's meant to be a revelation, something that should shatter our worldview.
And we treat it like easily digestible information.
Think about it like this. Information is like taking notes in a university lecture. You absorb the data, you nod along, maybe you even ace the exam,
Yeah.
but your core behavior doesn't change.
Right.
Revelation, in this context, is that sudden, visceral shock. It's like the discovery of quantum mechanics, where you have to tear up everything you thought you knew about reality. It demands immediate, costly change.
And if that transformation, that astonishment doesn't happen, the source is pretty brutal about the consequences of that stagnation.
If the idea stays as just information, then darkness isn't confronted. Complacency sets in. The authority of the concept, it might be admired, maybe even praised in public.
But it's not obeyed.
It's not obeyed. And the result is that the news stays inside the church. Or, to use our analogy, the message stays in the internal memo. It never actually reaches the customer.
So if a message doesn't naturally move beyond its initial walls, if it doesn't get into homes and workplaces, the source argues it isn't because the message lost its power.
No, not at all. It's because the audience has grown familiar without being transformed. They've heard the words over and over, but they've never actually been astonished by them.
Wow.
They've engaged on the surface without that profound shift that just demands testimony.
And when that happens, Jesus becomes, quote, merely another rabbi, another voice among many confined to sermons and schedules.
The idea gets filed away. It's neutralized by routine. And the viral spread it dies right there.
The power of the message is intrinsically linked to the level of obedience it commands.
Yes. If it doesn't cost you something, if it doesn't demand a sacrifice, a change, a public commitment, it's probably still just information. It's not revelation yet.
Which brings us to these reflective questions that the source poses, which are really the true metrics of an encounter. And this is for you, the listener, to think about. When was the last time the Word of God or any truly foundational concept you studied left you genuinely astonished?
And applying that principle more broadly, when was the last time that obedience to a deep conviction, an idea, a vision,
Yeah.
when did it last cost you something substantial? When was the last time you saw a profound, undeniable change, a problem solved, not by just sheer effort, but by the inherent active authority of the idea itself?
So if we synthesize all of this, the lesson seems pretty clear. The speed and reach of your influence, it isn't determined by how sophisticated your strategy is. It's about the depth of the initial impact.
Where transformation happens, news spreads. Where there's genuine conviction, testimony flows. And where that inherent power is actually experienced, silence is just. It's impossible.
The people in that synagogue, they didn't get a rollout plan. They just encountered something undeniable, something that demanded they reevaluate everything.
And that impact was enough. It was enough to carry the news throughout the entire region of Galilee.
The core of this whole discussion isn't really about becoming a better communicator or mastering social media. It's about making sure that initial spark is a truly transformative, catalytic event.
So let this be the provocative question you can mull over today. How often do you approach new knowledge, whether it's a business concept, a scientific theory, a core belief? How often do you approach it just to file it away as information?
And conversely, how often do you allow that knowledge to fundamentally transform your approach, your perspective, and even your behavior? Because that inherent authority, that transformative power of the idea, that's what dictates how fast the news will naturally travel through your own life and through your networks. The power, we've learned, isn't in the strategy, it's in the transformation.